right, it is Figgie and the Moose here on this Tuesday on Pix 11 Plus. A good Tuesday, one and all. We were off yesterday, and we're back today.
That's right.
Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're taking this in. How are you?
Oh, it's still good morning. It's still good morning. It just feels a lot longer already, right?
Yeah, a little bit. A lot of things to get into. Post-mortem on the Knicks as their season came to an end on Saturday night out in Indiana. A lot of hate toward Karl Anthony Towns. Brunson was worse on Saturday night. A lot of conversations of what do they do now? What do they do next? What's your thoughts on where do the Knicks go from here after making it to the Eastern Conference Finals and for the first time in 25 years and losing to what proved out to be a better team in the Indiana Pacers?
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it as a step forward, right? The idea and the plan was that this team went out and rebuilt themselves after having a fun, competitive year last year, a David Goliath against all odds kind of story, the Villanova trio, going to be the guys to find a way to scratch and claw. And then you went up against, a team like Indiana, who proved to be a little bit better. Injuries played a huge part. Then you knew you weren't going to get past the Celtics last year, right? So this year was a little bit different because you felt like they went out and they did all the things they had to do. They re-signed OG Anunoby to bring him back. Brunson takes a huge discount to help build this team even stronger. You go out and get Mikal Bridges. So then you thought you had the four Villanova pieces all together. That didn't last very long because they went out and got Karl Anthony Towns, who they wanted a 7-footer offensive big man. And they felt was going to be the key to also getting them over the hump of the Celtics. Well, they did. They got over the Celtics. They were able to go toe-to-toe with them and beat them, and then they had to go up against Indiana once again, and Indiana just proved to be too tough for them, built a different way. Each level of the playoffs, we saw a different kind of a layer of the Knicks that we hadn't seen before. We kept saying what they had to do, the physicality of Detroit. We talked about with the Celtics, could they play enough perimeter defense, which was Achilles' heel all year long, right? And they were able to do that. Then you go and you fast forward to the Indiana Pacers, and it was like, okay, hold on a second. There's a team that has figured out how to stop us and stop Jalen Brunson on offense for the most part. Jalen still would score his 28 to 32 points, but it was the way that he had to score them. It was the amount of time it took up for him to score them. It didn't leave the Knicks with a lot of other options. And Karl Anthony Towns had the one unbelievable game, 20 points in the fourth quarter that saved them. That's a huge step forward for me, honestly. And I think if I'm the team, I'm running it back. I'm getting some more bench pieces that I have a lot more confidence in, and I don't have to wait until out of necessity that we see them play. They play meaningful minutes. It was Thibodeau had to make adjustments to his lineup. There was a lot of things to like about what this Knicks team did this year. And I think, again, you have to look at it on the whole. It was a big step forward for the Knicks and Leon Rose and all the players on the team.
Yeah, I think you could be disappointed. I mean, I think the whole idea of it that it was, an epic failure. I think it's a little lost based on what the expectations were coming into the playoffs, even what the expectations were, even those differed from what they were to begin the regular season. So, I'd make some tweaks. I would. I think Indiana was able to control the tempo of this series, and when they were able to control the tempo, they were able to impose their will. The Knicks can't go out there and go up and down the court and go score for score from the Indiana Pacers. It's got to be a controlled tempo. You look at pace of play. Knicks in the regular season were 24th. The Pacers were 7th. Pacers going up and the Knicks defense got exposed. We know they're not a great defensive team.
Two guys in particular.
Well, right, for sure. But you play defense as a group too. I'm even told the transition defense was terrible, right? Targeting guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. I'm talking about getting back. I mean, Indiana was getting off misses. They were running off makes. They were running off turnovers. The Knicks didn't take care of the basketball. I mean, you saw, Andrew Nembhard, who had struggled in the series. We all looked at Aaron Nesmith as the Jalen Brunson stopper because of the physicality. Well, it was Nembhard on Saturday night where Jalen Brunson was headbutting him at one point in time, which we have seen that video because he was so frustrated because of what Nembhard was doing. And you give him credit. He hasn't gotten a lot of shine, but he was absolutely fantastic. So,
indeed.
here's what, Knicks fans, you can complain about and you can bemoan the fact of game one, and that set a tone for the series for sure. But, the Knicks were physically and mentally exhausted at that time because they decided to go up and down the court with the Indiana Pacers. That was a bad mistake. And that was something they learned a lesson from. Indiana was the better team. They punched their ticket to the NBA Finals. So this is not a case of coulda, woulda, shoulda. Knicks fans don't want to hear that from Celtic fans. Knicks fans don't want to hear that from Detroit fans. So you can't go out there and play that game now if you're a New York Knicks fan. You lost rightfully and squarely to the Indiana Pacers. They punched their ticket. And Halliburton, let's be honest, Halliburton in the series was better than Jalen Brunson. So maybe Team USA did make the right call last summer and go Halliburton over Jalen Brunson. But
hot take by Moose.
No, but I'm just saying, because I think people want it both ways. That's the frustrating aspect.
Yeah, of course.
And where, I listen, I'm fully aware they took advantage of a less than 100% Boston Celtic team. I don't care necessarily, right? It's part of the conversation for sure. And Indiana, did have the epic comeback. The Knicks collapsed in game one, but gave you no reason why the Knicks couldn't have responded in game two or game four or game six.
Any game at home.
Right. And they did in one game in game five, right?
Right.
Pacers had a strange way that they went.
Yeah, this is exactly it, right? We looked at that game
slow, which was weird. So you look at it now. What do you do if you're the Knicks here? I mean, I think Karl Anthony Towns is getting too much. Do I enjoy watching him play and complain? I do not. But this should not be surprising. It's almost like Knicks fans never watched a player play outside of New York.
Yeah.
This is who he was in Minnesota. He's the exact same player. Tiger don't change his stripes. This is the guy that he was in Minnesota. This is who you got when he traded Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Now they're looking to trade Karl Anthony Towns for Giannis. The Milwaukee Bucks want no party Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns in 3 years is making $61 million.
Yeah.
They want no part of that contract moving forward, right? So now you got to go out there. You've got Brunson. You've got Towns. I know people have thrown out the idea of go get Kevin Durant and trade Karl Anthony Towns to Phoenix. Well, I mean, now I'm going to bank on a 37-year-old Kevin Durant. That's
always worked out really well for New York teams.
Right. He's going to be supremely motivated and he's going to stay healthy. And you know this, Figgy. He comes with all this drama and nonsense and BS that comes along with it. It wasn't just Kyrie.
Lots of baggage.
Right. There's no doubt about it. I mean, do I need to hear, do you see Knicks players going back and forth with people on social media? I mean, you see Kevin Durant doing it time and time again. I mean, do I necessarily need to throw that into the equation if you're Tom Thibodeau and the New York Knicks? No, thanks for no thanks. I think the guys that you look to move potentially are, one-way players. I'd move Mitchell Robinson. I think his value is at an all-time high.
Right.
He's going into the final year of his contract. He would have some value. I can't bank on Mitchell Robinson all of a sudden staying healthy for an entire year. So Mitchell Robinson would be a guy that if I got the right deal, I'd look at moving. I'd look at moving Josh Hart. I got to be honest with you. He's limited in what he can do offensively. Glue guy, I get it. Undersized at 6'4". Great rebounder for a guard, Figgy. But, is Josh Hart a complete player? No, because he doesn't really score consistently. That's the issue when you look at Josh Hart.
I think there's a few things I'm going to hit off. The first, the Josh Hart thing. Me and Jason were looking at it in the office yesterday because he was like, oh, my God, he played so terribly. And he's going through his numbers. He almost averaged a double-double. He was coming off the bench most of the time. He almost averaged a double-double. So I take that from my fifth, sixth man any day. And the fact that he is that little engine that could. And was able to swallow his pride, tongue in cheek a little bit because he's, I'm a starter in this league, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to come off the bench and be selfless and help this team win. Yes, there's limitations on every single player. There's no perfect player. There's no way to sit there and go, oh man, this guy is perfect. He's unstoppable. He's this, he's that. I mean, you look at Halliburton had a game, a historic game in game 4, and in game 5, he had a historic fall off from that game, right? 6 points only, just a few rebounds, just a few assists. So it's basketball has that way. You have to make adjustments, continue making adjustments. My biggest thing, like you were saying, the identity of this team. The identity of this team is there's a lot of bitching and moaning on every single drive to the basket, on every single play. Karl Anthony Towns, if you showed him a whole low light clip of him going to the basket and crying about every foul or what it would, I think he would stop doing it, honestly. Like, he would realize how bad he looks and how the referees are going to not play the crying wolf game. And just listen, play ball, be a bigger 7-footer. My biggest beef with Karl Anthony Towns and with Jalen Brunson for the most part in this series, it was like watching, I wish it was Freaky Friday. If it was Freaky Friday and you could put Karl Anthony Towns as the guard and you could put Jalen Brunson backing people down in the paint as the 7-footer, they would have manhandled Indiana. Instead, I had a 7-footer trying to put up trick shots off one leg, falling out of bounds as many times as he could, and then just looking up for a foul. I had my point guard / superstar fending for his life, running through 18 screens to get the ball with 3 seconds left and trying to shoot off the wrong hand, wrong foot, and bank it off the glass. He did it a bunch of times, but is that really what I want? Is that my identity as a team? Is basically we're going ISO ball like it's James Harden in his prime. I don't want to see a lot of that. I know this guy is an incredible shooter. He has every shot in the book, but at the same time, we saw at least a little glimpses of facilitating. We saw little glimpses of other guys taking over for a substantial amount of time and getting an opportunity to do that. So I think we talk about the players. Yes, the players have to go and continue to grow their games. Hopefully they're not all completed, finished products where they can't learn something from this experience. Tom Thibodeau has to learn from this experience as well, right? I mean, Rick Carlisle ran laps around Thibodeau.
Yeah.
And we can't sit here and go, oh, Game 5 was a masterpiece. There was something odd about Game 5 when you had one player scoring double figures for Indiana. And hey, one of their starters. Right, one of their starters. Siakam was the only one. But you only had one starter scoring double digits. The other guy was coming off the bench and had something to prove, so he was putting up 20. It was weird to watch. And then the next game, you had 10 guys in double digits across the board, and you're sitting there going, how did they just sandbag it in the NBA playoffs? And then we laugh about how the Dodgers basically were like, oh, we're only going to go with 2 starters on a bullpen game. That'll never work, and it worked to perfection. So you got to give Rick Carlisle and this coaching staff a lot of credit for whatever strings they pulled. They seem to be the right ones the majority of the time, and they were decidedly better. It was how did the Knicks have to adjust, right? And we said that every series. So we can't sit there and say we saw Knick basketball dominate throughout this series. What is Knick basketball? Who is Knick basketball?
No. Right. Offensively, right. That's fair. And I think they've had remarkable comebacks. They've trailed in a lot of these games that they ended
Grit,
right?
Grit and determination.
No question about it. I think that's really it. But yeah, I think from a personnel perspective, they need to get a little bit better. And yes, I think Tibbs, obviously, and he should be back. It would be a massive mistake if he's not.
No doubt. No doubt.
So we'll see exactly what the Knicks do. They're having internal meetings and discussions this week. They're not meeting with the media anymore. There's no breakup day like you see in the National Hockey League, like you see in Major League Baseball, like you see in the National Football League. There's none of that for the New York Knicks. So there's going to be none of that. We'll hear from Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart whenever they drop their next podcast. And then we'll see Karl Anthony Towns on social media at some point in time.
No doubt. That's exactly how it's going to happen.
No doubt. We'll come back. It's Figgie and the Moose on this Tuesday. We'll talk a little baseball. We'll do that next right here on Pix 11 Plus. Figgie and the Moose with you right here on this Tuesday on Pix 11 Plus. A good day to one and all. Enjoy it. It's going to be a beauty out there, according to Mr. G and Chris Semino.
Mr. G.
No doubt, who's a little forlorn after the Knicks loss. Unquestionably, but I think we all saw it coming. As far as the Yankees, they get going with the Guardians tonight in the Bronx. Big news that came down late last night, early this morning, was that Luke Weaver is going to be out 4 to 6 weeks with dealing with that hammy. I mean, that's a massive blow for the Yankees. There's no doubt. 8 saves and an ERA over 1.2 after, before and after taking over the closer's role for Devin Williams. So Devin Williams is now going to step back into that role once again for the New York Yankees, the big-time reliever that they acquired from the Milwaukee Brewers during the course of the offseason. But listen, if it was a more competitive American League East, I think you'd be a little bit more concerned by this kind of an injury, the significance of. You feel bad for Weaver. He has been, turned his career around with the New York Yankees from kind of an afterthought to a guy that stepped into that role last year, was great, stepped into that role this year again, was utterly fantastic. So you feel bad for the player. And you feel bad for the organization, but due to the fact of the incompetency of the rest of the American League, it's not as significant a blow this year as it could have been in years gone by.
Oh, yeah. And who do we have to turn to? I'm sorry, but one of the best closers in baseball in the last 5 years. So
he's not right. He's not the same.
He's been better. He had the one game since he's moved into the 8th inning role. He's had the one game where he gave up 2 runs. He gave up a 2-run home run, got hit around a little bit. But I feel, again, if that's what I got to fall back to, unless he implodes, and then it's like, oh, what do we do now? That's what we have a concern. So let's see what he does if he's able to, get back into the form that we think he's going to be. And not saying he has to be perfect, but again, it has to look a lot better, and it has looked a lot better. So I'll err on the side of positivity with the Yankees. They're playing against the Guardians now. Another team that it's in that Central. Detroit is kind of running away with the Central, but the Guardians are one of those upper teams that can compete and kind of give you a wake-up call when you think you're going too well. They can, they're a little spunky team who don't have a lot of their stars that they had, the years ago, but they continue to battle. Jose Ramirez is one of the most underrated players in the game. So when we keep talking about litmus tests for, the New York teams, whenever they go to play a team, the Guardians are a good team. So we'll see exactly what they're able to bring to the table. And, they're looking for a little something after they were beaten in the playoffs. Just a little sign of respect. So I think they're going to go out there and have a little extra motivation to play harder.
Yeah, listen, they replaced him with Devin Williams, no doubt. But the American League East is terrible. As far as the Mets are concerned, they got a series going last night in Los Angeles against the Dodgers, and game went into extra innings. Lindor, the offensive hero, once again. Alvarez, big time. It was a fun game that you saw right here on Pix 11 last night. So, to a rematch of what we saw last year in the National League Championship Series. We talked about it yesterday extensively on TV, Figgie, about like the importance of this series. Sometimes there are regular season series that mean a little bit more, and I think you make that argument with this one between the Mets and the Dodgers. Two, obviously, West Coast, East Coast, 2 cornerstone pieces when you're looking at the overall quality of Major League Baseball this year. The Mets with all the headlines in the offseason from getting Juan Soto and what Steve Cohen has meant from an ownership perspective. Cohen was a guy that tried to buy the Los Angeles Dodgers a number of years ago and failed in that attempt, fell short. The Dodgers obviously going about their business different than everybody else in Major League Baseball, coming off a World Series title, defeating the Yankees in 5 games. It's a fun series, and they gave you a great game last night in Game 1, where the Mets ultimately came out on top.
Yeah, 27 straight games now of victory when it comes to Francisco Lindor leading off with a home run. 1-0 in Dodger Stadium. You don't think that's going to stick for sure. Derek May, pitching for the first time this year. You also had Blackburn pitching for the first time. You weren't really sure what was going to happen and which way that was going to go. Blackburn did a fantastic job of just mixing his pitches, keeping hitters off balance, making big pitches in big situations. He had a lot of traffic on the bases, but was able to, put out each and every fire. So that was nice to see. Again, you want to feel like all the different pieces. What if one of your big starters go down? Then you have a guy like Blackburn. What if, you have to go to that next level? Is there a big fall off from your A team to your B team? That's what sustainable success looks like, right? Is that it really doesn't matter the name on the back of the jersey. It's the name on the front of the jersey okay, it's just another guy that's able to continue doing exactly what the motto is. And so his attack on the Dodgers lineup, he went out there and he pitched, the way he's capable of, with the mix that he's capable of. He's changed his mix of pitches from last year when he got there in a trade to the pitcher that he was last night. It was good to see. So that was a huge plus for the Mets. The offensive side of things, again, they're trying to keep pace with the team that's the upper echelon, the creme de la creme of baseball. And then, the Steve Cohen has said it. We want to be the Dodgers of the East. You want to be like that organization. Sustainable success, right? And they've gone out and spent big bucks, but at the same time, they've had reclamation projects left, right, and center. Chris Taylor, Max Muncy, these guys came from being released by other teams that were last place teams, and they grab them and they tweak them a little bit. And what do you see? All-star players that come out and hit you 20, 30 home runs. So the Mets are, with their pitching lab, have done a fantastic job. We're starting to see, some of the hitting is being more spread around. We're seeing guys come through with big hits. Alvarez there in the 10th inning, a great job of staying inside the baseball, going the other way, not trying to pull everything. That's the kind of thing that you look for in the continual check marks of, this is who we are, this is how we play the game of baseball. And it all starts with Lindor. Like, you can say all you want about Juan Soto. We know what the Soto contract is, but this is Lindor's team. And, he isn't the captain as of yet, but he carries himself in a way that, you just, every time you see him, you nod your head, you tip your cap as a sign of respect, because he plays the game the right way.
Yeah, no question. Great game last night. Great Met victory. Shohei with a home run. You got some.
Home run?
Yeah.
It should have counted at least two.
Yeah, Shohei with a home run, but the Mets ultimately come out on top, which is the most important thing in extra innings. And are able to withstand a late Dodger surge in that bottom half of the 10th inning. What are you going to score today when you go play golf? What are you going to hit?
I'm happy. Minus 90. I'm a happy camper.
No, that's not true. Oh, under 90.
Under 90. Yeah, under 90.
Yes, yeah, I got you. Small goals.
Baby steps.
Great today. All right. We'll see
you
right on TV. He's Nelson Figueroa. I'm Marc Malusis. This has been Figgie and the Moose right here on Pix 11 Plus.